Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Life with Mokes. Today, I'm going to be doing laundry, and I thought, you know what? I can actually kill two birds with a stone because my daughter is sleeping, and it's so hard to find time as a mom to actually film. So I'm like, you know what? I want to be productive and get this pile of laundry done, but I also want to film. So I want to talk to you guys about life updates, nothing serious. I'm going to be talking to you about, some of the things I've learned in my 30s, right? I just joined the third floor. I'm not just, but last year I was 30. Now I'm 31. And, I wanted to just talk to you about some of the things I'm learning and some of the things that I'm changing in terms of perspective. And so it's going to be a fun, lighthearted video. So if you happen to stumble on my video, you're welcome to my channel, Life with Mokes. Here we talk about faith, family, lifestyle, anything relatable and fun. It's a God-centered channel. So if this video is speaking to you, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and join this wonderful community of God. So I remember when I started my YouTube journey back in, when was it? I think 2020. It was lockdown, right? Yeah. So either 2020 or 2021, right? Okay, well, I think 2020. I was very excited about starting the channel because, I just felt like this is something that I've been called to do. I like to talk a lot. I like to have meaningful discussions. I'm also very fun and, I'm not camera shy. So it means like I can stand in front of a camera and talk to the camera without feeling awkward about it. Well, maybe a little awkward, but not too awkward about it, right? And, through that, I've been through many phases. E.g., I had my first son in 2021, right? November. And that changed everything. Of course, I couldn't be as consistent as I wanted to because having my first son came with a lot of challenges, postpartum especially. The pregnancy was hard. I had something called hyperemesis and we breezed through, right? We made it. And then, after that I had to deal with postpartum depression, I think. Well, I never got diagnosed or anything, but I just knew I was extremely sad and I had a lot of intrusive thoughts that were no good, right? And so that happened. I tried to find my feet, and then I had a second baby, right? My beautiful baby girl, Janaya. My first son's name is Judah, by the way. And it's been very amazing. But the reason I'm saying this and giving this context is because now I'm, in my 30s. I'm 31. Oh my gosh. Every time I think about it, I'm like, I actually feel 16 on the inside. No lies. Like, I'm not even lying. Like, I feel like a baby on the inside, right? Um, it gets really tough because I remember, like I said, in 2020 it was more of a fun thing for me, creating content and stuff, but now I have more direction. For anybody who hears me, you know that I always say that for me YouTube is a ministry, and I say that because the reason why I'm doing content now as opposed to when I started, again, when I started it was just more of a fun, I wanted to film faith and lifestyle kind of thing, but I didn't really have focus or drive. It was just let's wing it. But now it's more of a ministry because I believe that we're in the social media era, and so what that means is a lot of people post content online, and for lack of a better word, there's a lot of content that is not edifying if you're a believer to the body of Christ. And it's hard to find content creators who are consistently putting out faith content. And of course there are many, right? I'm not saying there are not many, but as opposed to people who are creating secular content and content that are very, for lack of a better word, like vile, it seems like, we Christian content creators are being drowned in that, industry. And so this is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, to make sure that my channel is a place where, you can come and actually know God better. You can understand his word better, develop a better relationship with you, and it will motivate you to want to do more in your personal devotion life, right? So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so there is pressure for me, let me put this inside the drawer, by the way. There's a lot of pressure for me because now I find myself, just thinking, am I doing enough? There's the financial part as well, where you're thinking, at the end of the day, I want to make money. I want to live a good life. I want to be able to create a life that is comfortable, not just for me but for my kids. And so in your 30s, I feel like the pressure becomes a little, so I feel in your 30s there's more pressure to do well, especially when you have people that are depending on you, right? And that's the phase of life I'm in. So when it comes, I'm going to be talking about different, you know, areas of my life, and the perspective I had before, and what has changed. So let's start from finance. When it comes to finances, for me, before, I used to save, but I didn't have direction when it came to savings. And I'll explain. So, I wasn't the kind of person that would just, spend all my salary and everything. Of course, my husband as well is a very, very good planner, and he has been able to kind of, like, I always say this to anyone that wants to hear that, he helps me start or learn how to save, and learn how to organize and budget and things like that. And so in my 20s, I feel like, even though I was saving, I didn't really have like a goal for it. So I'll just have savings, but like I didn't really think deeply about, okay, what do I want to use the savings for? It almost felt like you are saving to spend for an emergency, and so you have emergency funds, but then you spend from the emergency funds and then save again. But now in my 30s, I feel like I'm more financially literate. And so what that means is I am being more intentional about my savings. So for me, I'm thinking about retirement, and this is something I'm so passionate about because, I feel like one of the things that I do not want for myself is to be stuck, in my retirement age. And what do I mean? Sometimes maybe because of lack of planning, you don't plan for retirement, and so you are in this financial fix, or you're not able to afford a certain lifestyle that you want. And it becomes a struggle. Sometimes I go to, like, maybe places like Tim Hortons or No Frills. These are just like, stores in Canada, like to buy groceries and whatever, or like to buy snacks and stuff, right? Or cafes. Tim Hortons is a cafe. And I see old people working, and I'm like, oh, why are you working? In my mind, obviously I wouldn't ask them, but I'm thinking, why are you working at this age, right? And it's probably because some of these people, and I'm not saying it from a place of judgment, they didn't necessarily have the time to plan for their retirement for one reason or the other. And so now they have to work, in their old age. And it's a privilege, to be honest, that you even still have that opportunity, but that's not something I desire for myself, right? I want to be able to say, okay, I am done and I have saved efficiently or effectively enough to afford the kind of lifestyle I want. And that lifestyle entails being able to live mortgage free, right? Being able to travel, being able to, support my children, support my grandchildren at that age, if God, Jesus tarries, and, all things being equal, right? So now my savings is more directed to things like RRSP, right? Retirement, TFSA. So I'm trying to see, okay, how much can I take out from my paycheck, to invest, because again, I want to have a comfortable lifestyle at that age. I don't know what my retirement age is yet, to be honest, but I'm working towards it, right? And so that's a change in perspective. Also for my kids, oh my God, I feel like one of the goals, and by God's grace, if Jesus tarries, like I always say, I pray that I'm able to achieve it, is being able to pay for my children's school fees without getting them to have a loan. Because someone is like, oh, is that not the norm? No, actually, in Canada, it's pretty expensive, right? And if you don't plan towards, your children's, when I say school fees, now I mean like college fund, because I think here, daycare, you have to pay for daycare, but like high school and all this junior kindergarten and primary school and secondary school, for lack of a better word, is free up until you get to college. And so when I say for school fees, I mean like college funds, right? And so I want to be able to pay for that outrightly without having them, go into debt or going to take OSAP, because we're in Ontario. So OSAP is like that, what's it called now? Where you can borrow from from the government, and and then you refund them after you're done with school based on what you're earning and all that. I think you have to do a payment plan, and I feel like that's the least I can do for my children, because by God's grace, my parents, with the little that they had, gave me the very best, right? I went to a private school called Covenant University. for my undergrad, and it was pretty expensive, and my parents did their best, to see me through that, and I never lacked for anything. As a matter of fact, I used to say when I was younger, I thought we were rich, but when I got old, I'm like, okay, so actually we're not as rich as I thought we were, but my parents were very particular about giving us the best when it came to education. And I want to do that for my kids as well. So for my children, I don't want them to start their life with debt. So that's why I'm also doing something called RESP. So I think it's, the educational fund where the government actually supports you. And if you save, there's actually like an amount. I'm not sure how much it is exactly, but if you save, I think it's 2,500, they will match it or top it up or something like that. Maybe I would look into getting more details for anybody that's interested. But I started doing that for Judas since 2020. And so right now we have like actually quite a substantial amount. And mind you, I'm not like earning like $1 million, right? It's just something that we've been doing every year. And now like it's substantial. And for Janaya as well, we're doing that. And for someone saying, oh, maybe I don't have enough money for my paycheck and all that, there's something called CCB, right? I think it's called the Child Care Benefits. So I get that every month for both of my children, and I just put that money straight into the school funds, the RESP, because I feel like you can make do with your paycheck without eating into your children's future. So sometimes I do get tempted, especially in this maternity time where now I'm earning like literally 55% of my annual income. Mind you, it's capped. So pretty much you can only get, I think, up to 2,500, 2,300, which is about 1,184 bi-weekly. So sometimes I'm like, maybe I should just eat into this childcare benefits. But I remind myself that, you know what, the least I can do is actually give my children a great start for their future by ensuring that they don't have debt when they come out of school, right? And so that's about finances. Now let's talk about friendships, right? When I was younger, I used to be such a people pleaser. It was such a big deal. Like it was such a big issue for me, right? Where I always just wanted everyone to like me, everyone to love me, everyone to be my friend, but I feel like this one is not really, from this perspective, it didn't really change much from my 20s, because I feel like from my mid 20s, I actually kind of just had a mindset shift where I wasn't holding on to friendships that didn't need to be held on to, right? And I've had a few friendship, I guess, breakups. I've never had one where like, it was dramatic or anything, but some friendships have fizzled out. And for me, that's okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm in the phase of life where I'm like, okay, the friends that, are in my corner are in my corner, and the friends that don't want to be can respectfully leave, right? So I'm not going to be fighting for a friendship and trying to hold on to something that's not worth holding on to. At the end of the day, right, not everybody can be friends with you for life. And I talked about that in one of my TikTok videos where I'm like, there are friends who are seasonal, and that's okay. You hurt yourself because you keep expecting a lot from somebody who does not have the capacity to give you what you want, right? And so I feel like in my 30s, I've, like I said, this mindset shift happened more in my mid 20s, but in my early 30s now, I've reinforced it even more. I'm not going to stress myself, to be honest. If you are somebody who, is not emotionally available, like I'll give you the same energy, you give me the same energy I'll give you. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to trying to hold on to things that are not for you, right? So that's that. Let me see, which other one? Okay, so the final one I want to talk about is marriage, right? Obviously, before I got married, there were lots of things that I had, lots of mindset or perspective that I had that were not necessarily the best, right? It's not like I've had any like, toxic mindset about marriage per se, but I'll give an example, right? I've learned we're going to be 5 years by God's grace in November. And I've learned to choose my battles. I feel like this has helped me, because before I used to be I'm not a fighter, but I'm very confrontational in the sense that I like to talk about everything. So I'm very big on communication. But, one thing I'm learning is that sometimes communication is silence. Does that make sense? Like sometimes just keep quiet and let things simmer. Give yourself time to think about what it is that has happened, to give yourself time to process it properly so that you can have a more mature conversation. Another thing is that not everything has to be talked about. And that's one thing that I feel like I've learned about myself. I'm still learning, because sometimes I'm like, why didn't you? Why didn't you? Why didn't you? But you know what? Sometimes I'm just like, I beg, we're all doing our best here in this marriage. Like, nobody is perfect. Everybody's trying to just like literally fight for their lives. For lack of a better word, right? Everybody's trying to do what they can. So I'm just like, you know what? For things that don't bother me that much, I won't talk about it. Okay, it's fine. Maybe I can talk about it later in a playful manner, but like, no, everything has to be so serious because it's draining. Sometimes I feel drained. Like, as a mom, you're just like, oh my god, like, when do I have time to breathe? And so imagine like dealing with all that, pressure from mothering, and then you still now have a marriage that's very antagonistic, where you are always fighting. I beg. So I've learned to kind of tone it down. Like, don't get me wrong, communication is very important. So for the things that are important, talk about it, but also know how to differentiate between things that need to be talked about and things that just need to slide. Okay, so that's everything I have for you guys. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I have to run because my madam wants to wake up. So I'm going to go ahead and arrange all these things. So I'm not done with my laundry yet, but I'm going to go and put these away and then finish the rest of it later. But I hope you enjoyed this video. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let's talk about this finances. How are you guys planning for your children if you have kids, or even your future, even if you don't have kids, your retirement. Let's talk about this. Let's, let this be educational, so please don't forget to leave a comment, share, like, and all that good stuff. I'm trying to get monetized this year and you can help me. So just don't scroll and pass. Actually contribute to my channel and contribute towards my goal of getting monetized this year. So thank you so much if you stayed till the end. I love you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye for now. Mwah.